gorilla stomping in a zoo. Check the vocals, animals gather right. Boom.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we're going to resume construction on our outdoor rabbit enclosure. As you can see, we're starting the video off inside the garage, and that's because it is a little bit breezy outside, so you probably wouldn't be able to really hear what I'm saying. So it's better to start that off in here again today, and then we'll take you outside to where we're doing the work. As far as the work goes, what I need to get done today is mesh in the bottom part of the frame, because that's the part that we're kind of getting held back on right now, is getting that mesh in there and then the topsoil to fill the hole back in. And for those new to the channel or to the project, basically I'm meshing down deep under the ground, about 2 feet down. I'm going to have a basket of mesh, and that'll prevent predators from burrowing into the enclosure, but just as important is to keep the bunnies from burrowing out. And if you do any research or talk to anyone who's had bunnies themselves, you find out pretty quick that the bunnies burrowing out of the enclosure is actually a big problem, and something you want to pay heed to, unless you want to go out someday and your bunnies are gone into the wild. And since we got domestically bred bunnies, they probably wouldn't fare too well in the wild. They're a totally different genetic makeup than your typical wild rabbit. Alright, so that's pretty much what we're going to be doing today. I got my little man here to help me out, and we'll get that mesh down in the hole. I'm going to do a little bit of digging and leveling just to get everything properly squared off. And the reason for that is I don't want the weight of the soil pulling down on the mesh. Like if I were to leave, say, a gentle bend in it, the soil might push in that corner and tear the mesh down from where I attach it. So I'm going to be trying to get the mesh as straight down and 90 degrees as possible, so that the soil will just fall around the mesh without pulling on it. And that's my goal anyways. We'll see how that turns out. Alright, so with all that said, we're going to get outside now and start cutting mesh to size. And I got a little bit of galvalume there, corrugated metal, and I'm going to be putting that along one of the sides. And the purpose of that, there's a big maple tree growing next to where we're building the enclosure, and I don't want the roots of that maple tree to come in and get all interweaved in the mesh underneath the ground. And you know, if we ever happen to tear that maple tree out of there or something, having those roots then pretty much haul the mesh out of the ground with it would be a bit of a mess. So I'm just going to put that galvalume down on one side just to keep those roots from encroaching inside and prevent that possible eventuality. Alright, so with all that fancy lingo thrown at you, we're going to head outside. I got the cart loaded up with the mesh and all the tools I think we need. There's always something we forget, but this should get us off to a good start. And hopefully the wind will calm down later, be able to chat with you a little bit. But otherwise, you'll see what we're doing. Just getting that mesh put in place as best way as possible, getting the galvalume put in place. And that may conclude today's work. We'll see how the pace goes and how the work goes and how we do with it. So got my little helper here, so that'll make the job go a lot easier. And let's see how much progress we get done. We'll see you outside. So as you can see so far, I'm just cutting around the edges, doing exactly what I said I wanted to do, just make those 90-degree angles, and then we'll get to probably the galvalume first, and then move on to the mesh from there. So I'm just going to continue tidying up here, digging in those corners. I'm shoveling everything out of the hole for now, and then it's all got to go back in there yet. But hopefully I'll make this as tidy as I can. I'm trying to do, you know, more prep work to end up with a better result than try to fix it partway through. Alright, anyways, back to it. Alright, so now that this is all tidied up, I got the galvalume up there on the corner, if you can see it, and that's just over my shoulder, other shoulder, this one. So that is 10.5 feet long, so it's going to be 6 inches too long, but I'm wondering if it'll fit in such a way that I don't need to cut it, but I think I'm going to end up cutting it anyways. Alright, so let's get it down in place and see how it looks. Alright, so from what I'm seeing, I need to take a little bit off this far corner down here, and I got to take about that 6 inches off the end. So I'll do those cuts now. Alright everybody, so that's the first layer of mesh all applied there now. But to be honest, I'm not really enjoying the outcome. That 2" by 4" gap is much too big for my liking. But I continued and I finished it. But now I need to go back to Home Depot and get some either 1/4 or 1/2" mesh hardware cloth and reinforce the sides. Because if you can tell in the back, some of that's going to be above ground, right? Some of that mesh. And it's just an easy passageway for small critters to get out of there. So, you know, if we end up with baby bunnies in there at some point in time, they can just go right through that. So I need to get some smaller mesh and reinforce the sides. Like I say, I'm not too worried about the bottom, but the sides definitely need to be reinforced with a smaller mesh. So I would say avoid the 2" by 4" fencing if you're putting small animals in there. So that's where we stand right now. I'm going to head back to Home Depot. Maybe back with you guys again today. If not, I'll finish this video on another day. But I'll try to get it done today anyways. Alright, so off I go back to the store and be right back with you in a matter of seconds. Alright boys and girls, that's going to conclude today's video. The mesh is on the frame. It's a bit bulkier than I had initially intentioned, but you know what, things happen, curveballs got in the way, and we had to change the plan in terms of the mesh I was using. That 2" by 4" fencing just wasn't cutting it, and if we put anything small in that enclosure, it may just walk right out through the mesh, right? So we had to change that up, reinforce that with some 1/2" hardware cloth. Turned out nicely. Like I say, it's just the corners are a little bit bulky with folded over metal and stuff to make those turns. But all that's going to be buried anyways, and out of sight, out of mind. That's the way we're going to stick with it, okay? As far as next session, hopefully that's going to be tomorrow. I need to get that backfilled now. That's ready to be filled up. And that's going to hinge on if my neighbor is available or the heavy equipment guys are available. Hopefully my neighbor will be around. He said he'd help me out with it. He has a John Deere bucket loader. You may have seen it with the raised garden bed video. And he's going to come by and help me backfill that and hopefully have that done rather quick. And then we'll begin more construction on the upper half. Get that ready for the bunnies. Because those bunnies are going through the wood shavings like crazy, I tell you that. Alright, so that's going to clue up today's video. But until that next video happens, hope you're happy, hope you're healthy, take care of each other, and peace out.